For well over 100 years, the way we build passenger vehicles has been locked inside a highly restrictive metal cage. Every major automaker from Germany to the US has depended on a massive, heavy chunk of steel to prevent their cars from crushing inward during a side crash. We know it as the B-pillar. It dictates everything: how you get in, where your seats go, and how confined you feel. The Western world accepted this as an unbreakable rule of engineering. But a relentless Chinese tech giant looked at this century-old rule and decided to completely bypass it. Enter Zeekr, the premium luxury arm of the Geely Group. They didn't just want to create another standard EV. They set out to completely hack automotive physics. To pull this off, they invested nearly £1 billion into their new CEM platform. The engineers were given an impossible task: erase the B-pillar completely, yet make the vehicle infinitely safer than a European tank. The outcome of this massive financial gamble is the Zeekr Mix. When you slide its double doors open, you are greeted by a massive 1.5-meter void. There is no central beam blocking your way. It looks like CGI, a structural illusion that should theoretically fail every safety test globally. Today, we are exposing the machine that bypassed the B-pillar and left traditional automakers in a state of panic. When legacy engineers first laid eyes on the Zeekr Mix, their first thought was pure survival. How on earth does a heavy electric van with a gigantic gaping hole in its side survive a brutal lateral collision? If a brand like Ford or Volkswagen tried to pull off a van with no B-pillar, it would crumble like tin foil in a crash. But Zeekr didn't actually delete the B-pillar. They pulled off a brilliant magic trick and hid it right in front of our eyes. The old-school fixed pillar was swapped for two massive, high-strength structural beams built directly into the sliding doors. These invisible shields are crafted from 2,000 megapascal hot-stamped steel. To give you an idea of how insane that is, this is the exact same ultra-tough metallurgy used to construct the hulls of deep-sea nuclear submarines. Once the Zeekr Mix's doors slide shut, these hidden pillars lock solidly into the reinforced roof and floor. They form an absolute vault of protection. In official crash simulations, the flank of this vehicle can take a devastating 20-ton crushing blow without the passenger cabin caving in. It is an absolute triumph of engineering. It gives passengers the immense freedom of a modern living room, while wrapping them in a steel fortress that makes legacy safety vehicles look incredibly fragile. One of the absolute worst things about navigating a bulky SUV or minivan through cramped cities like London or Rome is the dreaded turning radius. Classic Western people movers are incredibly awkward. You are constantly doing three-point turns just to get out of a tight street because the front wheels are blocked by giant combustion engines and outdated steering setups. Zeekr saw this massive flaw and decided to rewrite the rules of mechanics. Since the CEM platform is strictly electric and heavily space-optimized, there are no bulky engine blocks in the way of the front wheels. This gave the Chinese design team the space to engineer a ridiculous steering angle of over 50 degrees. When you crank the wheel all the way, the front tires cut so deep that this huge van practically spins on a dime. Even though it is a massive luxury cruiser, the Zeekr Mix has a turning circle of roughly 4.95 meters. It is significantly nimbler and easier to park in a crowded downtown street than a tiny VW Polo. It completely destroys the headache of owning a huge family car. You get the cargo space of a massive van, but the sharp handling of a tiny city car. It is deeply embarrassing for legacy brands that are still selling clumsy, hard-to-park luxury yachts. Because the traditional B-pillar is gone, and the floor is completely flat, the inside of this vehicle does not feel like a car anymore. It feels like a high-end mobile apartment. For over a century, we have been forced to sit in strict or forward-facing rows staring at the driver. Zeekr just assassinated that boring layout. The front seats glide on an electrified rail system, allowing them to swivel an incredible 270 degrees. Push a button, and the driver and passenger can spin completely around to face the people in the back. A secret modular desk rises up from the center, immediately turning the van into a rolling office a dining space, or a VIP lounge. But do not be fooled by this relaxing, lounge-like vibe. This machine is a rocket. Tucked away under that perfectly flat floor is a wildly powerful rear electric motor pushing out a staggering 415 brake horsepower. This gigantic mobile living room will blast from 0 to 62 miles per hour in a mere 5.6 seconds. It will effortlessly gap a sports car at a green light, all while your family is comfortably playing a board game in the back. It is an unbelievable mix of peaceful luxury and aggressive electric speed. If you really want to see why the old automotive guard is terrified, just look at how this van steers. Since the dawn of cars, the steering wheel has been mechanically bolted to the wheels using a solid metal column. That column is basically a heavy metal spear aiming straight at the driver during a severe crash. The CM chassis was built from scratch to utilize genuine steer-by-wire technology. That means there is absolutely zero mechanical link between your hands and the front tires. It relies on the exact same digital aviation tech used in advanced fighter jets. When you steer, instantaneous digital codes are fired to electric motors on the front axle. Why is this a massive deal? Because it totally detaches the human from the hardware. Very soon, the steering wheel will be able to electronically retract into the dash when you switch on full self-driving, giving the driver unparalleled space to rotate their chair and completely chill out. It slashes weight, kills the safety hazard of a metal column, and offers endlessly adjustable steering responses. It makes the old hydraulic setups of European luxury sedans feel like museum pieces. The last pathetic excuse legacy brands use to push their outdated gas and diesel engines is charging times. No one wants to sit at a charger for 45 minutes. They complain. Zeekr took that argument and completely shredded it. The Zeekr Mix runs on a cutting-edge 800-volt high-voltage system. It features revolutionary battery cells built to swallow massive amounts of electricity in a fraction of the usual time. When you hook this up to a hyper-fast charger, it doesn't slowly trickle power, it aggressively absorbs it. You could arrive with a dead battery, plug in, and in precisely 10.5 minutes, your battery will rocket from 10% all the way up to 80%. 10.5 minutes. That is barely enough time to grab a coffee, hit the restroom, and walk back. In the exact time it takes someone to fill up a gas tank and pay the cashier, this EV has swallowed hundreds of miles of driving range. It completely destroys any remaining doubts about electric vehicle charging speeds. But here is the most mind-blowing twist to this entire story. The ultimate Trojan horse. You probably assume this is just a wild Asian concept car that will never leave its home market. You would be absolutely wrong. This exact vehicle is already rolling onto American streets, completely bypassing the defenses of General Motors and Ford. Alphabet Poo, the tech giant behind Google, runs Waymo, America's premier autonomous robotaxi service. When Google desperately needed a highly reliable, space-age platform for their next fleet of driverless cabs, they ignored American brands. They ignored Tesla. They flew straight to China and struck a deal with Zeekr. A heavily adapted variant of this vehicle is officially the new face of Waymo's self-driving empire. It was sketched out in Sweden and technologically forged in China, specifically to dominate the US robotaxi sector. While politicians try to block Chinese tech with heavy tariffs, the biggest tech corporation in America is sneaking this architecture in through the back door because it is light years ahead of what Detroit is building. The Trojan horse is already inside Silicon Valley. The Zeekr Mix isn't simply a new minivan. It is a violent display of engineering dominance. When Volkswagen launched the ID. Buzz, their heavily hyped retro EV, the media went wild. But park the ID. Buzz next to this machine, and the VW instantly looks like a dinosaur. The German van still forces you to navigate around a thick B-pillar. It still traps you in rigid, forward-facing seats. It takes much longer to juice up, and its steering radius is prehistoric in comparison. Zeekr grabbed the boring family van formula and mutated it into a 415 horsepower x 800-volt lounge that recharges in 10 minutes and literally hides its own structural pillars. The reality that Chinese engineers perfected this technology over a year ago, while the West is still fumbling with basic EV frames, should send a shiver down the spine of every automotive executive out there. The old establishment is asleep at the wheel, and the traditional rulebook for building cars has been burned to the ground. This is Cambericouve. If you want to uncover the brilliant engineering hacks and the unstoppable tech that is rewriting the automotive world, smash that subscribe button. The future waits for no one, and it is moving fast. Catch you in the next one.